Okay, video 7, let us complete this little trinity structure where we have been working with the male-female configurations on a molecular state, because that is what it is. Everything else are base programs that are teaching us what a male is and what a female is, and these are institutional, cultural ideas of what a male and female is, and we need to recreate the original understanding that we are dealing with different consciousness structures and potentials that follows the different pillars. And we have both male and females in all of the cycles. So what we are here lifting it into is the humanoid, technologically oriented consciousness structure that goes with the D13 collective. And the progressive consciousness energy development via teaching systems, inner work, direct touch between consciousness and energy to transform both the old universal energies of the previous cycles, but also the reality field in itself, using our consciousness potentials as it has been given or has been embedded, or we have chosen, you decide yourself, to become part of us as our original, let's just call it soul structure of the true worlds, even though soul is misleading. So we're here talking about the original energy system configuration imbued with consciousness, which in the progressive worlds are dissimilar to the template 6-layered energy system, 3-layered organic vessel that I am teaching you in the transition science classes, because that's the after timeline event configuration that became part of the restoration program. So we are having many different energy system configuration. That's just the one that I can share with you that will lead to the progressive dynamics and orientation and rebuilding of the progressive races type of energy system that is highly connected to the understanding of unity, wholeness, the highest good of the many, highest purity rate, highest standards, highest progression rate. And we do that by following the principles, the laws, and the rules. And we do that in different developmental programs where the teaching systems and the technologies that are put there are aimed at knowledge of transformation of energy, of mastery of the ability to transform energy, both universal cycle energy as well as reality cycle energy, as well as personal cycle energy. So there we understand again the 3-step build-up of the different realms of energy that we are composed of, which are domains, density, and dimension. So we understand that the cycles, smaller cycles are dimensions, the larger cycles are the densities, and the grand cycles are the domains, so that we understand the expansion of our energy system into these different concentric cycles of reality, perception, utilization of energy, and development of consciousness. So let us sum up and say, well, for both males and females, males have 2-step in the rocket to reach the 5th chromosomal layers. Females have 1 step. But our step as females is to undo the diminishing and containment of the original 4th cycle features we had before the times of Atlantis, reconfigure these, transfer them into our human personality matrix inside this lifetime, transform it, upgrade it, remove whatever connections to fallen timelines, distorted timelines, contaminated timelines that are connected to the female molecular state of the progressive races. Let us put it this way, that are connected to the molecular state of the progressive races and the 4th cycle dynamics that got inserted and developed in the 4th cycle before the time of Atlantis. And then we were to merge with the humanoid understanding of sciences in the 5th cycle, which is why we got the Atlantean colony, where the humanoids got direct access into our reality. They had in the 1, 7, 2, 8, and 3, 9, and 4, 10 pillars, except we had the timeline event and that failed. But the idea was that they would work with the progressive dynamics there, and then in the 511 pillar would regain their original humanoid potential, consciousness potentials, from where they would then work with the dynamics between the progressive worlds and their humanoid genetics. And that's technically the foundation of the male genome. That's that idea. But as we also know, the timeline event reverted, and that's why males are hit harder with the 3-5 configuration, because they were the ones that were carrying the molecular structure that would allow the humanoid and humans to reconnect. Whereas the females in their original forms, which were not defined as males and females with different gender and penises and vaginas, but were defined as consciousness structures where the progressive races would work as teachers and mentors and supervisors for the humanoids. And you see, this has swapped all around. That's why the humanoids are now trying to position them higher than to do a frog leap, literally by, and here I'm not just meaning do as a kind of synergetic leap, but no, they're literally trying to jump by using us as the one they jump over, here literally meaning a frog leap in a correct understanding. So they're using us to jump higher by using our genetics, our consciousness potentials, and subduing the the human races and whatever female humanoids they used to have, because they used to be female humanoids that were oriented more towards the progressive world. So we used to have progressive humanoids, quote unquote female humanoids, and they were taken out. That's many of the ones that ended up in the underworld, unfortunately. Then we have the progressive human lineage, where many of these original male and female, or what we call original racial progressive consciousness potentials inside the current population of our planet, are now mainly stored in female bodies, unfortunately, and oriented towards breeder programs, because they need the original progressive true human consciousness lineages to be reproduced inside this reality, hence in the quote-unquote female body, but controlled by programs where the females are subdued or under the control of the humanoid males, which are the main configuration of males on our planet. So we're literally having that understanding that when we look at males in their male form, even though they have Pleiadian genetics, they are per essence via the Y chromosome humanoids. And they have an extra load or burden to bear due to the fall of Atlantis and all the things that they have done. So that's one of the reasons why they are the carriers of the fall dynamics of civilizations, because they are humanoids. They always think conquer space, use technology, and who cares about the whole, and they are chaos makers. They use this to create diversity and think that's the right way, and the responsibility that who cares? And whenever they're doing excuses for whatever they're doing, it's insincere. It's just kind of, we had that so many times. Males know that they've been jerks, but they don't really apologize, as in I'm learning for this mistake. I've done this stupidity, learned by my mistakes. But they are apologizing because they know that that's the good way to do this. This is how society works. But they are not really mending and bending inside and taking responsibility for their actions. That's the first step towards the X chromosome that they are to unravel. That's the responsibility, the understanding of the unity, wholeness they are part of, not just by words, but by actions and by the inner work and the clearing work that they need to do. They need to be humble. And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about the cross, the program of the cross. That is that idea. The cross programs are literally oriented for males in suffering and strife, but they have transferred their karma to the females. Again, sexual blending, sexual imbuement of their energy system, transferring their karma to the females whenever they are probing female. So that's also why females should, no, thank you, I'm good, I'm not taking your shitload. You can keep it to yourself and all or whatever you hold of energies. I'm fine, I'm doing just fine. And again, females, we are also transferring energetic parasites and all our emotional otherness connection, which we need to stop as well. Our missing, our longing, I miss you, I love you, I need you, bullshit that females are loaded up with our parasitic interconnection. We are building energy cords between the one we love and us, and by that are allowing for a parasitic energetic transfer. So we need to stop that, cut that loose, and reconnect to our own inner higher female instead of seeking the otherness and the mirroring and acceptance from others. We need to get that within ourselves and build that up and stand strong in our own energy of the fourth cycle of Lemuria, as well as the recreated fourth cycle of the reseeding, whatever that means and entails for us to get there. That's a genetically determined. Males are a little bit more simplified in their genetic composition because they have such an underdeveloped X chromosome that's linked to elemental and desire energies. And yes, there are males that do love, but they are mainly parasitic elemental entity controlled to do that, to get the end of that, so the elemental energies that needs their feeding. So we are having that issue with the X chromosome that we were supposed to work our way towards is now being controlled by elementals and energetic parasites. And that's why we're steering towards a fall again, because the future of humanity is in the hands of these underworld creatures. And that's part of what we need to clear out in the upcoming 2-8 pillar work. So with that, we can return to the understanding of the path, or Dharma, as it's called in Hindu and Buddhist teachings, because the path is a word that's been used both within the Hebrew teaching system, as well as in the Hindu teachings, as well as in the Buddhist teachings. And the path is the work that we need to do on the timelines as part of our everyday life. That's the path where we clear karma and where we clear what we could call in today's language, instead of using karma as in past lives. What are past lives? Past lives are lived energy forms where we have developed certain dysfunctional versions of our consciousness potential. So karma is to clear out the wrongful use of energy and consciousness that we have done on previous timelines. Simple as that. So that's the timeline work. That's karma. Undoing your karma, replaying the personal cycles, the reality cycles, the domain cycles, from where you clear on these 3-step, that's 3-step rocket, cutting the path into the past, clearing out what needs to be cleared there, dismantle what needs to be dismantled there, recreate what needs to be recreated in the now, so we stand strong in our own energy field, and then integrate whatever we have left of our template consciousness units, from where we can begin to transform and transmute energy as we are rightfully supposed to do, as I teach in the Template Science Course 3, and then begin to look into the future dimension, the 5th dimension, and what we need to get done there. And that's where we turn from path cutters into forerunners, because we're both cutting away the old energy on the path, and that's technically how I play with words again, because when I say path cutter, you're thinking about someone who cuts the path in the jungle so that others can follow. But here I'm twisting it around and saying, no, we're working with Dharma here. You're cutting loose what is on your own path, so that you cut down your own distortion and your own infection and your own contamination. So that's where you understand the infection is the first cycle, the contamination is the second cycle. And in the third cycle, we got this combination of these two. And in the fourth cycle, we had a replay, and then we had the fall of Atlantis again, and then distortion is part of the reseeding. So we are having different versions of energy, because what happened in Atlantis due to the wrongful use of energy and middle domain entities and capturing them and using them in magical ways, what we understand is the astral plane and the distortion fields were created as a result of the wrongful use of energy in Atlantis. So before the fall of Atlantis, we did as such not have the distorted level of our reality aside from the timeline event, but that will link to what we call the original consciousness potentials. But due to the clutter and the enormous amount of wrongful use of energy and not transforming energies correct, in the last stages of Atlantis, when the humanoids came in and began to use technology instead of transforming reality energies as we did in Lemuria, by everything that we were doing in the progressive ways, they started to use technology, and they left behind a lot of residual energy, as we are seeing with the using of nuclear force or whatever forms of energy where they use reality energies in technologies. They, the humanoids, the male consciousness, the third cycle-oriented consciousness, yes, you conquer space with it, but you do not transform anything. On the contrary, you create residual energies, and that's the distortion. So that's what happened. Technically, that's what happened to the downfall of our reality during the times of Atlantis. And then we had the reseeding, where we not only had to deal with the molecular level of the first, second, fourth, and fifth cycle that had failed, we now also had to deal with the distortion energies. And that's why it made it so easy for the Dracos to take over, because they could use this distortion energy of the astral plane to create another amount of false teachings and false information systems, because humanity had now gotten into such a web of distorted energies in their energy system, and at the same time were being linked up to technology, and at the same time were connected to what we call the molecular deficits of the previous cycle. So they just needed to add in a little bit of extra elementals, a little bit of extra link up to artificial realities, and then they had complete control of us. So that was an easy takeover. So that's some of the things that we're dealing with here. So when we're talking about clearing out the old world order programs, we're also clearing out the distortion energy. So when we talk as path cutters, we are cutting loose everything that is no use of us on our path, our dharma. And we do that by the clearing work, but the most important thing is to return to the original ways of living, the correct purity rate, where everything we do inside this reality is about transforming energy. The way we live, our house, our garden, the food we eat, the way we go to work, how we use energy when we go to work, as in why you could do the public train, of course, but otherwise take the bike. Don't take the car. That's a polluting machine. It pollutes no matter what kind of sustainable energy they want to run it on. It's still taking reality field energies. Use it via a motor. It generates different types of residual energies we call air pollution. It makes noise. It sends out vibration that is unhealthy for environment. Then you have the electric cars. Yes, they don't make noise. Yes, they don't make residuals. But where does the electricity come from? And that's the wrongful use of energy again. Then you can say it's solar energy. Yes, but it's still working through a machine. It's not working through consciousness potentials that are transforming the energy into the purified highest state of universal energy. So a car, no matter how you twist and turn the car is a bad idea. The crafts are a bad idea. It's the same idea, the technocrats and their way to move around in space. You don't need machines to move around in reality. You can transform your organic vessel in and out of dematerialization using the holographic network and the gate system to travel between systems. The speed of light, because we're made of light. The holographic network, it's part of us, we're part of it. We don't need machines. But that's the loss of consciousness potentials that happens to the technocrats and the humanoids. And that's why they keep repeating that, because that's where their power lies. That's where they conquer space via machines. But it creates residual energies because it's a wrongful use of energy and it's a wrongful use of power. So we must take that into the way we live. And that's why I created the blue flower, to give an indication of these are the petals that you need to master, where you transform energy. You transform energy in your nutrition, energy work with food. You transform energy when you exercise, because that's the physical vessel you keep, play to transform the biocodes in your exercise, especially if you've done clearing work, doing exercise after, or doing exercise first and then doing clearing work. These two things work very well together. And there are different ways of exercise. There is the physical exercise where you do whatever you need to do. There are the laying down energy work, and there's the horizontal and the vertical energy work, as I explained in the transition science classes. So that's the three layers of the mental field. That's the vertical. The emotional field, that's the horizontal, and the biocodes you do in exercise. But you do clearing work when you exercise as well. So it's not just a physical feature, it's also energy work with your physicality when you exercise. Then work. The way you do work must be in alignment with the rules of engagement and the laws of the correct use of universal energy. So that's some of the frontier or pioneer work that we need to do to find these businesses. That's part of where we really begin to manifest our highest level of our energy systems into physicality, with the purpose of changing the base program. No more, no less. That's what our work should be about. And then education, where we understand that the sciences and the information systems that we're working with are to be transformed from the lower order sciences to the higher order sciences. That's the transformation of science, of the mental field. We could say work is all about the emotional field, mental field, configuration, reconfiguration, where sciences and the work with education, information systems are a mental feature that goes with the expansion from lower order sciences, frequency based, into density, domain, reality field, dimensional based sciences, where we work with the different educational levels that were taught in the Pillar Project or in other types of similar higher order science projects that have been taking part in our reality field. We need to rediscover that. It's loaded into the reality field library, as well as not the genetic library, but the information library that's connected to our reality field. And it's not the Akashic records, as many allude to. It's the planetary records that are imbued into the network of our reality field. That's where the holographic teaching system is attached. So there are the racial storage units in our consciousness potentials that are connected to the library, and there are template and the book of life and the programs that goes with that. And then there are the reality field developmental programs that are having their own records and a planetary library where all of the information of the sciences of this reality field are stored in the holographic teaching system. That's the higher order sciences we can connect to in our mental field. And then we have the psychology, where we work with our personality matrix to transform all of the versions we were in the past. That's our path in what we call the personality matrix level, where we work with the molecular state of our personality that's connected to our karma. That's the psychology. That's the higher order psychology, the timeline work. And then we have the progression work, where we understand all of these petals are to be combined into a future feature, where we work with the energies of the futures that we want to create. That's the progression work. I know I talked about it as timeline work and clearing work, because that's what it is, all having all of the other petals embedded into it. So that's the true understanding of the progression work, is where you have nailed all the others and then you take it into a future aspect of the pioneering work. Again, the step I build up with the progression work as an understanding all of the levels of the petals, the whole project work, where we begin to transform and really put that into our personality matrix with the change maker material, and then we put it into the pioneering, where we really begin to take what we have learned into saying, okay, we now know what we're dealing with. What can we do with it? What is to transform using the principles, the rules, and the laws? How can we work in the original progressive ways in this mess of a world that we are in? And there we will understand that technically we are not to do anything with the parts of this world that are now going into devastation, but we are to transcend that and move into what remains of the viable networks of our reality field and reconnect to what's left of the original code streams of the original universal embedment of the code streams of the progressive worlds that are left here, because they are still part of that, because we were supposed to bridge out of this one and back into the holographic metaverse, as I call the true progressive or the true human worlds. So we need to develop an energy system that can do the transition there. So that will be our main goal no matter what we do. And the way we live must support that. So that whatever we do will be a transformation of energy that it's supposed to be in everything that we do with our organic vessel. We transform our organic vessel in everything that we do with the whole Project Blue Flower. But we also understand that all of that is not just to change the world, the outer world, the spatial world, but it's because that's the lost case. It is not about transforming others, as many females think, and that's the wrongful use of the X chromosome, the progressive dynamics, because you can't change anybody else. Everybody must take responsibility for who and what they are and do their own clearing work. No, the goal is to transform energy on all levels of our being, outer, inner, and higher, so that we can reconstruct our original progressive six-layered energy system, so that when the time comes and we shed off this physical form, because it's never about this form, it's never about this world, we have recreated the original as much as we can, original complex energy system, holding the level of knowledge that is the developed consciousness units, transformed our energy system, whether it's just an orb or whatever we will transfer with, using the original pathways out of here, working with the code streams and the holographic network of light, where we transfer from one system and into another. That's how we get out of here. But we can only do that if what we lift out of this system is in a purified state, highest purity rate, highest standards, highest progression rate, that are in alignment with the worlds we want to enter into. So that's the fifth cycle work, where we understand, well, the other worlds, the progressive worlds, their lowest point is in the sixth dimension. So we need to get into the fifth of this system and undo the effects of everything that happens in Atlantis, get that one lifted up to its highest potentials, and from there continue our evolution so that we can connect to the sixth dimension, which is difficult because the 612 pillar is one of the things that Dracos completely obliterated or evaporated or took out, and targeted many of what was left of the elder races and the original true humans and the teachers that carried that configuration, that energy pattern, and pushed it into the underworld. So that's, unfortunately, most of that is stored down there, pushed back in time due to simple mechanics of certain programs that some of you, especially females, are encountering, that appears to be part of the 2-8 pillar, which they are, but that's that programming that has pushed that 612 configuration of us back into the 2-8 pillar and contaminated it via certain specific Draco programs, and I'm not going to go there. So just say that's how they did it. That's how they pushed the original human consciousness of the 612 pillar back into the 2-8 pillar and contaminated, so it ended up in the underworld layers of our planet. So that's stuck down there, unfortunately. But that's part of some of us that are doing that work. You know me, I've been there. I've been trying to clear that one out and just discovered that most of it had to be let go. So in that, we must recreate a new version of the 612 pillar. But since most of that has been removed from our reality and the progressive counselors have removed that upper levels of our template, then that's going to be very difficult. We do have the ability to do the 511 because that's a completion of the Atlantean downfall. That's karma, that's part of the cycles that we need to complete. So our dharma is, as path cutters, is both to clear the past and cut away what we can't use anymore, and create the path into a new version of the fifth cycle, which what is possible in this lifetime, so we can become part of the galactic communities. And then from that point, in the fifth cycle timelines or code streams that are part of the original reality field of this solar system, we can, not on the density 2, but that's where it is positioned, there are, as I keep saying, traits of that in the fifth cycle, layers of the reality network that has not been contaminated by the timeline event, that has not been taken over by the dark ones, that has not been destroyed by what was done during Atlantis. But it is on a feminine level. So that goes with the progressive dynamics. You see, the humanoids, they completely destroyed everything that goes with the fifth dimension. That's why when we try to do the fifth dimension, and we're doing it on the teachers of the different groups of humanoids that have come, quote unquote, back in time to activate the Atlantean genetics, they all activate into these distorted fifth dimensional features of the humanoids, using all sorts of technologies to get their sounds, imagery, symbols, or what have you, right? So by technology, but we still have the original progressive fifth dimensional code streams that were unaffected by what happened by the humanoids, because the Syrian workstations that instigated the third cycle energy embedment were humanoids. It was done by technology, so it's tied to technology. So if we are to do the fifth dimensional energies, we must do it without technology. And some of the New Earth humans that are doing the fifth dimensional New Earth, they are doing it via the help of grays. So that means they are using technology, because grays are androids. So that's again the humanoids that are trying to frog leap into a new dimensional setting, that they will fail because the fifth dimension in our system fell in Atlantis. So we need to do the fifth dimensional code streams that are connected to the progressive humans, and that we can only do in energy work and how we live and following the rules and the laws, taking responsibility in everything I have taught you so far. And the humanoids, they don't want that, because that for them, that's a step back in their evolutionary cycles, which is not correct from my point of view. That is where they're supposed to go, but you know, they're disconnected from the progressive worlds. The D13 collective were the laggards. They were already imbued with the floor when they came into this universal cycle. So they are already what we could say dysfunctional from the very beginning, and they're not going to budge. They won't give in on that one. They want to maintain that floor, because that's what creates chaos, or diversity as they call it. It creates diversity because they don't want all of these harmony and laws and rules and principles to create balance, to create the right way of working with energy that follows the unity and the wholeness as a flock, which you can almost hear the bleh that they feel about that, because that's how they feel, and that's the snake talking that most males are embedded with. So that's why they keep trying to create diversity and dodge the bullet of what they need to do with their X chromosome. Anyways, so with those of us who are going to do the progressive worlds, we have already a strong fourth cycle understanding of things, and it's nothing to do with compassion and tribal consciousness. On the contrary, it's the ability to transform energy, work on timelines, activate our heart field in the correct manner, so we can work with the different types of energies, which are either personal, dimensional, or density, or domain. So we kind of get that understanding. That's the 4 layers. Personal, that's who we are in this locality. Dimensions, that's part of the reality that it is now. It has different dimensions to it. The densities are where we go into the different energies that the layers of our reality is composed of, and that leads into the domains, which are technically what we could say the universal structure that goes with the core domain of the inner domain. Core domain is the top level of the universal structure. Inner domains are the galaxies. The middle domain are the stellar levels, as we call it, and the outer domain are the planetary levels. That's the verbs and the terminology we use after the timeline event. Technically, we are talking about different vibrational settings that leads to different radiation levels, that leads to different consciousness potentials. That's what a domain is in essence. So as path cutters, cut loose the past, cut the path for the future where we become pioneers. And the work we are doing here, we understand that we are changing our molecular structure to clear out the remnants of the past. That's our dharma, and we do it via the whole Project Blue Flower in our everyday lives, where we choose the highest choice for the highest progression rate, the highest standards, and the highest purity rate. In everything we do, in our nutrition, our food, and our work, that's the highest purity rate. In our work, we begin to go into the higher standards because we choose work that will assist the reality field we are part of in transforming the reality energies. That's what work should be about. Then we have education that is all about the sciences of the mental field, the collective mental field of humanity that also connects to the radiation fields of our reality field, transforming that from the lower sciences, frequency-based, to the higher density-based sciences, which is part of our individual work as well, but it's collectively based. Work bridges into the collective, where we take it a notch higher with the new types of sciences and new type of education, where we contemplate our information and recreate the original mental structures that leads to the mind field, where we process the information systems of the world we are part of and put it into frames of references, put it into system, create sciences from where we understand the original reality field dynamics and energy transformation processes, let me put it that way, that affect our reality field as a whole, both as an energy structure but also as an outer domain spatial feature. Transforming it also, it becomes the original non-crystallized reality that can shift between crystallization and non-crystallization. Right now we are phase locked into solidification, which is what we need to undo in our work and in our sciences, and what we create as thought systems, as processes of information system. Information systems should transform energy, not phase lock it into false technology and false ideologies that keeps us locked into crystallization. Everything we do must become flexible again, and being able to shift between crystallization and non-crystallization, working with the holographic networks in the correct manner. And from that reality setting, we then go into the higher type of psychology, where we work with past lives, past versions, timelines, who and what we are, to clear out our personality structure in the past, present, so we can create a new future, which we then take to the highest potentials in the progression work, which is not only about the clearing work of all of the other levels, but also about the future work that we are to embark on. And that's the whole living in a nutshell. That's the 7 layers of our existence that we must nail, and that's why I put it here to video 7, where we understand as path cutters, we are also the way showers to live that way, but we have done it as part of earlier civilizations. All of us, except from the 60% clones, artificial humans that are walking around inhabiting the world and keeping us in the base program, the ones that are left of us that do have a soul and a higher order energy system connected to us, not just being possessed by insectoids or entities or whatever, because some people actually think they have a soul, but it's just a parasite that's in them. So they are technically a clone with a parasite, and that does not give them a soul or a higher self. It's just a parasite linked up to elemental and technology. But we're talking about the true humanoids that came here to restore and return to the progressive worlds, and we're talking about the true humans that came from the progressive worlds to assist in the less progressive universe idea and structure and projects, from where we were to assist the ones that were part of the D13 collective. But the assisting is not about helping or bridging for them or healing them or doing the work for them. It's about holding the light, being the role models of this is how you do it. We are here keeping the configuration. We are here showing you the configuration. We are living the configuration so you know where to go, and we're keeping the energies of the original configuration. That's why we came here. And we are constantly transforming the reality around you, so whenever you mess up due to your flawed genetics, we are keeping the configuration for you. We are the light bearers for you, but you need to do the work. And this is where we have come now as path cutters. We are cutting that loose from us as well, because the councils no longer wants us to do that. That's why I'm here as a releaser. They want that's it. We are cutting loose on not just on a personal level, but on a density level and on a domain level. We are cutting the LPU loose of the true worlds. We are collectively moving on because that's the highest good of the many. This project is over. It failed. The D13 collective will not continue into the next cycles. It will fall with this universal structure or be stuck in the parallel universal matrix or in the dark avatar collective, and they will run their course, their dharma, their path with what they have got left. So therefore we are now keeping the configuration for these races, but only until 2065, where the rest of us will pull out. And then that's it. We're done here. So that's also part of the whole project, that we for now keep the configuration, but we are keeping the configuration for ourselves as well, for the unity, for the wholeness, because the councils have asked us to. But we are at the same time also reassuring that we will build that energy system that we need so we can be pulled out via the laws of energetic and genetic affinity. And we know nobody's going to pull us out. We must build the energy system that we must have to be able to pull out. And that's why our work becomes a 6-layered work, where we are going into the pentagram of the program of that were part of Atlantis and the original understandings of Atlantis and the Atlanteans and what we're supposed to do, bridging the humanoid and the progressive humans together. But the progressive humans were there to keep the configuration. And that is what the Atlanteans took advantage of, and that's why they hunted us down and transformed us so we would keep their configuration. So that's part of some of the progressive energy systems, what they can do, and that's why we get imprinted, so that we can transform that imprint and release what's connected to that. At least that's the work I'm doing. That's why I get the imprint, so I can release that configuration and remove it from the technologies. And then it's easier for the humans that are doing the clearing work to get rid of whatever they have on a personal level, because I have removed it from the collective level. So that's also what path cutters and pioneers will do. We are moving from what we call the individual level into the reality level with the collective as our main working area. And that's the 5th cycle dynamics. That's where you work with the public domain, the collective, the racial networks, as well as the reality field networks, the racial grid works and the reality field networks. And you there transform both in that interplay between your ability to master energy, your ability to master the racial grids, and the understanding of the 12 universal lineages, purpose and function, so that you adjust whatever you're doing in your transformational work to be suitable for your surroundings and the others that are part of that crosses your perception field, that crosses your path, so that you're still cutting the path so they can walk on it for a while if they like, but you are not doing the work for them. You're just ensuring there is this space, this representation of the progressive dynamics represented inside this reality. And then we are at the same time ensuring, at least again, that's my work, ensuring that none of what was part of the original project will remain here, so that while we're keeping the light, we are also removing what ties us to this system. And then when we choose to leave, we extinguish that light. We extinguish the representation of the progressive worlds inside this universal structure. We're not here to maintain it. We keep the light for a while, and once we're done with our work and what we need to do, we pull out and we let it fall. So that's also the understanding of the path cutter. So when we begin talking about going into the galactic communities and what that means for us and what we need to do there, that's where we go into principle 8 and 9, where we understand the correct use of energy and the correct use of power. Because what are we to do with the galactic communities? How are we to represent ourselves in the galactic communities? Which galactic communities are we to aim our work at? And that's what I want to discuss in the next series of videos. Thank you.